everybody. Welcome to the Sharon and Joe Show. My name is Sharon.
My name is Joe.
Every Monday, we get together to discuss narcissism from both a male and a female perspective. As many of you know, we're in a long-distance relationship, so we usually communicate through text, email, and phone. Once a week, we hit the record button and include you in on our conversation so that all of us can share our experience, strength, and hope together. I release videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on all types of topics related to narcissism. So if you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. We would really appreciate it if you gave the video a thumbs up. It's a free way you can help us out. And definitely don't forget to leave a comment because we want to know what you have to say. So Joe, you and I have been discussing over the last couple of days demons, demonic possession, demonic influence. Do you believe in demons?
Yes, I do. I say it unfortunately because I like to consider myself, a down-to-earth, practical guy that's into science, psychology, psychiatry, biology. But from my experience, and I'm in my mid-40s right now, I do. There's a story I wanted to share with you about in the Bible about Jesus, and I'll get to the point why I want to share it with you. He comes across a guy that was afflicted with a demon, and the guy was begging Jesus for help. And he was possessed by these demons, and they actually recognized Jesus and said, they called him the Son of God. Please don't mess with us, leave us alone. And Jesus demanded the demon to speak his name, and it said Legion, for we are many. And Jesus had casted those demons into a herd of swine who later ran off of a cliff and fell into the ocean. And the reason why I wanted to mention that is in a lot of cases, whether they were true or not with possession and exorcisms, the exorcist part of his strategy is to get the name of the demon, because what he did, he basically had command over that demon. And I saw, like, when Jesus had asked the demon its name, that said Legion, which was many. The name of my demon that I was dealing with was NPD, Narcissist Personality Disorder. Until I knew the name, I had no solution for it until I knew what the problem was. So, yeah, in my case, it was that. And I hear people referring to the demons with different names and stuff like that, but Legion to me suits. Because there's many, there's only one omnipresent being in all of creation, that's God. He could be in more than one place at one time. So a demon can't be in 50,000 people that have NPD at the same time, but demons can. And narcissists embody like the 7 deadly sins. To me, narcissism is on a spectrum. When you get to the personality disorder spot, I believe that some of them are demonically influenced, and I believe some of them are prone to demonic possession just because they're simply evil. And speaking on a scientific, legit, opinion of this, it's not even an opinion, it's a fact. If you look up evil in the dictionary and read it, and then you scientifically observe a narcissist in action, there's no doubt about it that they are evil. Your take, talk to me.
Oh yeah, I'm right with you. I think really the only difference that we have is I believe that anybody who has narcissistic personality disorder or traits of narcissism are demonically influenced at the very least. I don't believe that somebody can be that cruel, that abusive without there being something demonic attached to it. Now, I agree, like it is weird. Like there was like a time where I wouldn't say that I believed in demons. Actually, there was a time I did not believe in demons. I thought that was, I don't know, hocus pocus, magic, stuff that didn't exist. But since I have been with a narcissist over the last 20 years, the things that I have experienced, the things that I saw him do, like I've seen this person, I saw my ex change before my eyes. I mean, weird things would happen in the house. I'm not ashamed to say now that I do believe it. I do believe that there is not just a physical realm that we can see and touch, but that there is a spiritual realm as well that we can't see. It's invisible. However, what happens in that spiritual realm can come into our physical realm. There are changes that, like I said, I saw in my ex. I'll explain some of them in a minute. Let me just ask you, do you know what I'm talking about? Have you seen with your ex something that, or anybody that you knew with narcissism? I know you know several people. Was there something about them that changed at some time?
Yeah, when I was, my story, when I was a little kid, my father left when I was about 10 or 11, my little brother and and my mother was an alcoholic and a narcissist. And there have been many times that she just intentionally will scare me. There was a time she came out of her bedroom in a drunken stupor, and my brother was sitting at the table, and he started crying, and he was frightened. And we talk about it to this day. He had saw like these demons behind her as she was coming down the hallway, and I was sitting like my back was against her, and I just saw my little brother like trembling and crying. And we talk about it to this day. And there were faces that my mom would make, and was scared to live and crap out of me. Granted, I was a little kid. Well, I later on in life, you know, when you don't address issues when you're a little kid, like codependency and low self worth and trauma, I met this spitting image of her, but it was even worse this time. I got married. I married one of these things, married for 20 years. And everybody that's listening, anybody that's been abused by a narcissist knows the devastation is beyond anything that a normal human being could do. Like, out of all the illnesses and disorders out there, what led me to believe that many are demonically possessed is because every single person I've talked to that has gotten over this, like, it has altered their life forever. They'll never be the same. Hopefully, we're better versions of ourselves. But in my case, I married somebody that had antisocial personality disorder. That dark triad they talk about, Machiavellianism, narcissistic and antisocial personality disorder. So this was to the extreme spectrum. So not only the devastation, but yeah, there were definitely signs. She told me when she was a little kid that there was a demon that was chasing her, and she'd have night terrors. But I've seen that mask come off several times during our relationship, and it scared the living crap out of me. It's something in her eyes, the look that she gave, like she wanted to kill me. And I'm a big dude, like I'm 6'2" and been in the sports. Like, people look at me and they're like, I better be nice, if I don't like it. They wouldn't think anything like that. Well, those eyes, if I had another name for the demon other than NPD, I would just say spite, because they're just so spiteful towards God. Like, all of creation, anything good, anybody happy, anybody at peace with themselves, and just spiteful beings. You have a couple of stories. The one with church, the one that happened like just about 6 or 7 months ago with that shadow that you saw in your garage. There was noises and signs and presences I would feel in my house, shadows I would see. It's like this thing has been following me along, like attached to me somehow ever since I've been a little kid. Share with us, Sharon. A couple of them were really interesting.
Yeah, I have a few stories, and I just want to say I know what you're talking about with in the eyes. And even just while we're making the video, I don't usually talk about my parents, but my father's also a narcissist. And I actually had said to Joe before, I actually have this fear of angry men, and it stems from what happened when I was a child with my father. He would get this look on his face, and it terrorized me as a child. It would happen every so often, and it was just this change, like this hatred, like I could see it begin to happen. I could tell right away when it was going to happen, and I think it was the mask falling. And then my ex would do the same thing. He would just get this, it was like a dead look in his eyes, like he wasn't there anymore. And it was terrifying. And like I said to Joe, like this affects me to this day. Like, I'm afraid of a man getting angry because of what I experienced as a child and with my ex. But I'll tell you a story that happened when I went to church with my ex. So this was about, oh gosh, it was 6 or 7 years ago. I started taking my kids to church, and my ex would not go. He doesn't like church. He doesn't like anything to do with it. And, connected to that, just again with my father does not like religion. He doesn't like church. He doesn't like God. He's very vocal about it. He is anti-religion at all. And my ex the same way. But my ex would not go into a church. So finally I talked him into I always wanted him to go because I wanted to go to church as a family. I really wanted to do that. And he would never go. So ironically, of course, today I felt like a single mom. But so I talked him into going to this thing called Pizza with the Pastor. So it was not a church service. There was no sermon or anything. It was just people that were new to the church were eating with the pastor, but it was inside the church. So I talked my ex into going, and right from the beginning, as soon as he walked in the building, he was not himself. He was changed. His face looked different. He looked afraid, actually. And this kind of makes me think of when you were talking, Joe, about the demon with Jesus. He recognized Jesus, this demon. At this point, not everybody, not even his apostles, knew that he was the Son of God, but this demon recognized him. And my ex, there was something about the church, just being in that building. There was something that changed him. He wasn't talking, he wasn't saying anything. He looked nervous. We sat down to eat and he started shaking. I'm sitting next to him and his legs bouncing up and down. I was so annoyed with him. I was like kind of hitting him, like pushing him to try to get him to stop. And he was looking at me with this look like helpless, like he was afraid. And then at one point he just got up and just left. He just took off in front of everybody. It was really embarrassing. Now at the time, I'm thinking to myself, because my ex is a different religion than I am. So I thought, well, is it maybe that? But even then, that didn't make sense to me because I'm Christian, but I could go to a synagogue or a mosque and I'm not going to freak out when I'm there. He was freaking out. So that was one experience I had with him around religion. Now, Joe, did your ex have any issue with religion at all?
Well, she used to say her grandmother used to read the Bible to her, and we've gone to church a couple of times. Those two incidences were really, it triggers me now still to this day. About 7 years ago, she had an affair with a guy up at her work, and we tried to we tried to make things work. We were at this church service for couples. It was like a retreat or whatever, and we were there, and the whole time, like we were there, not the whole time, but half the time, I found out when we got home that she was emailing this guy back and forth, which still this day like triggers me. There was another time after that when she cut out contact with him. We were at church. The whole scripture like that the pastor was reading was about adultery, and my buddy Tom was there, and he was a close friend of mine, so he knew what I was going through, and like I was really reaching my heart, I was trying to forgive, and she was with me, and when it was done, it's like she didn't hear a damn thing. My buddy Tom came up to me and said, "Joe," he's like, "that was probably a really good sermon for her. I wonder if it like reached her heart, if but she never mentioned it. It's like she never heard anything. Those were two incidences like that, um, you know, church wise that had happened. But many bad things throughout the years, throughout the 20 years. We could do a whole different topic on that, shadows, a dark presence, her believing she was chased by demons, me at nighttime, like waking up with night terror, and myself, bad nightmares, presence of things in my room, shadow figures, just bad stuff, man, just bad stuff.
Yeah, the same for me. I've had many experiences like that, but all connected with him.
Yes.
In our home, it's now he's not here anymore. I don't have these issues anymore. Like I don't see anything. Like I saw this, like I've mentioned before in another video, I saw this like dark shadow in my garage one time when he was at the house. There's been strange water leaks around my house that nobody could figure out. They haven't happened since he's been gone. So many things connected to him. But I also wanted to mention another thing. I don't know if this has happened with you, Joe. I have you ever noticed, because this happened several times with my ex, I saw his mask drop, but his voice changed too. Have you ever experienced that?
Yes, and it wasn't from them. It wasn't them. We were with these people for 20 years, married to them. Like, these people pretty much. Well, we thought we knew these people inside out, but they're not really people, I call them. But Yeah, you had mentioned that too to me, how his voice would change, and that was kind of scary.
Yeah, there was a time actually when my daughter was on, she mentioned this and it reminded me of it. So my ex broke into the house and he terrified my daughter and I. My son wasn't home, he terrified her. And he suddenly started talking to my daughter because I told my daughter I was going to call the police. And then he started talking and he's like, Paris, I'm not scaring you, am I, Paris? Paris, I'm not scaring you. Tell me I'm not scaring you. Like it was really freaky and bizarre the way he was talking like that. It was almost like he just completely changed. It wasn't him talking. It was not him. It was something else. It wasn't his voice. The inflection, everything was completely different. It was terrifying. But I think that, I mean, just the voice change terrified me. It was horrible. It made me get like goosebumps. I'm hearing something come out of his mouth, but it wasn't him. So I believe, I do, that there's something inside of them that you see and hear sometimes. What do you think, Joe?
No, I do. And the screwed up part is like we were talking about, like identifying the name of the demon, NPD, like some screwy ass reason. I thought, okay, now I know the problem. I could work on the solution, which was curing her. So unconsciously, I'm trying to exercise this demon out of her by let's go to treatment, let's go to church. Nobody can get rid of a demon if they're not willing to admit like they got an issue and to want to have the willingness to change. I was stuck on there for a hot minute. Like, okay, this is good news. Like, this is great until the acceptance finally came. It's ironic. I had to be in a hopeless state in order to find hope. And that's where that the little to no contact and the gray rock, and then eventually the exodus, I call it, going out into the desert, in the wilderness from captivity, detaching from the parasite, so to speak. Did that happen to you? Like, cool, okay, I know the name of the demon. Not that we're calling it a demon at the time, but I know the name of this ailment that they had, this disorder. I think I'm going to try to help them. Then recognizing like it's hopeless. You can't change anybody, let alone a narcissist.
Oh yeah, I had the exact same thing happen to me when I found out, because before I found out that he had narcissistic personality disorder or traits of narcissism, I was confused. I was so confused. I couldn't understand why he acted the way that he did. It was bizarre to me. He wasn't acting the way that I would expect anybody would act. He was just, everybody knows. I mean, if you're with a narcissist, the things they do, they're cruel and evil and vile. I mean, they're lying and it's one thing after the other. So when I found out that he had narcissism, I was like you. I was relieved almost. I thought, oh, now I know what the problem was or is. I never thought to myself that I should not be with this person. I thought I could fix him, help him, that he could. Basically, I thought that if he could change, everything would be wonderful. I didn't think at the time that there were issues related to me. Like, why was I with somebody like this? Because a lot of times I think of my kids. I mean, I think if my kids were with somebody like this, I would be outraged. It would not be acceptable. So why is it acceptable if I'm with this person? Have you ever thought that with your kids, Joe? Did you ever think how you would feel if one of your sons was with somebody like your ex?
Oh yeah, the exodus. I was caught in that desert, cognitive dissonance, trauma bond, wanted to go back to Egypt, so to speak, because I had a nice warm cot and I had food. And reaching the promised land, what you're talking about right now, is basically like it was coming to an acceptance that like I got out of captivity, yet I still felt enslaved. When I came to recognize is that I'm trying to heal somebody and I need healing. You know, like the name of my trauma, I don't call it a demon, but the name of my trauma was codependency and low self-worth and low self-esteem. You're talking about it. I would break my heart to see my son or daughter in a relationship like that. And I understand now, but I wouldn't have back then. Like, get the hell away. Because my friends were telling me, just leave. It's no big deal. They didn't know like there's an addiction there. There's a they decay all any kind of like logic and morality that you have. You feel stuck there, even though you have the key in your pocket. Yeah, the promised land. and not everybody makes it through. And I was stuck there for a while, worshiping a golden calf. Idolatry, putting this woman, quote unquote, my wife, quote unquote, on this pedestal. And God talks about that. He's a jealous God. He'll have no other gods before me. And I was just stuck on that love bombing phase the first month of my 20 years, and then it was over after that. But yeah, if that answers your question, I do. There was a lot of things, and I had to ask myself. And there's a saying that love conquers all, but not even love can conquer a narcissist. They have no love. They have to be willing to do their part in things. But, however, when it came to me and I saw those problems, it gave me hope because I could change that. I needed God's help with that, speaking of Jesus, and I needed faith to do that. But what do you think about that?
Oh yeah, I was with you, exactly the same thing. It wasn't until I recognized, that I could change, but a narcissist can't change. You can't do anything about a narcissist. They're going to be who they are. They're always going to be that way. They don't want to change. But for us, it's different for us. So yeah, once you start recognizing that and you start doing the work, because I was just like you. I felt stuck. I felt almost like, I kind of look at it like I was in jail, but the door was open. So once you know what the problem is, it's like anything, any problem that you have or anyone has, once you recognize the name of it, you know what it is, then you can actually do something about it. So yeah, for all of us, we feel stuck, or afraid. You don't want to leave the relationship because, just like you said, Joe, like back in Egypt, you had, a warm bed or you had food to eat. I have heard it said before, like talking about the Bible, that it was easier for the Israelites to leave Egypt than have Egypt leave them. It's your whole mentality, it's your whole thought process. All that has to change, but it can change for all of us. It really can change. But what we have to do is get rid of the narcissist. We can't be in a relationship with somebody who, whether you're like Joe and I and believe that this person is demonically possessed or influenced, or if they're just a cruel person, they don't care. You can't be with somebody like that and have any level of happiness, any level of contentment. That really, you have to leave. And you have to go no contact. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, the recovery started before I left, as far as when I found out that the name of that demon, NPD. But to truly be able to get to the promised land, it is a process, but it does start with the no contact, as far as working your way towards looking at being free from your own trauma that you had when you were younger, if you were anything like me. The only thing I could say, if it gives anybody in counseling, is I've seen the demise of many narcissists. I've seen, God bless her, my own mother, take her life. I've seen my ex in addiction, just in a bad spot. I've seen another one just absolutely decomposed in front of me. That Red Sea parts, and we passed that Red Sea, and that Pharaoh and his group of minions come after you. That's going to close right on them. God does not like ugly, and that karma does exist, and it's not pretty. We talked about Sodom and Gomorrah, how Lot and his wife were walking away from it. God did not want them looking back, because if they did, they'd probably be scared to death, petrified. That kind of sin, God hates sin, hates it to the point where he's ruthless with it. And Lot's wife looked back and she turned into a pillar of salt. Probably because if she would have seen it, she would have been scared as hell and been like, "Oh my God, this is the Creator is taking care of us. Look what He's doing to these people." But they're not people. I don't know what you call them: interspecies predators, psychopaths. They just, anybody that has any cognitive, just it's called cold empathy, where they fake empathy. They don't have empathy. They don't have love. Where there's no love, there's no life. They live in the dark. Nothing good grows in the dark. My codependency issues, my low self-esteem, my low self-worth, that was in the dark too. I had to bring it to the light, and I needed my faith to do that. The manna in the desert for me was people like you, Sharon, my support group, ironically, YouTube, and I'm not a big internet guy or anything like that, but hear survivors share their experience, strength, and hope. And remembering that in that 40 years in the desert, not everybody made it through to the promised land. 40 years is a long time. There's people that died. There's victims out there. We'll never hear their voices. That, only but for the grace of God, there go I.
Yeah,
That's all I can say.
I agree. I used to think, until very recently, actually, that most people survive these relationships. I don't know what I was thinking. I think it was, I actually, Joe, you told me it's because I'm hearing the survivors. But most people do not survive this. So for us, we're so blessed to be aware of this. And really, we're sitting in an unlocked jail cell. The future is out there for us, but it's we have to stop wandering around in the desert. It's so crucial that we actually head towards the promised land. We don't live in fear. We're not afraid, because Joe's right. The narcissists, they're like a parasite. Their strength only comes from feeding off of us. So once we have the strength that we need to move forward without them, they decompose. They wilt. They're like a flower that you don't give any water to. And Joe's right. Karma hits them big time, whether it happens immediately or it happens over a number of years. Like my ex, I was talking to Joe about this. Was it this morning or yesterday? My
I think
ex.
it was this morning.
What?
I think it was this morning.
Yeah, I think it was. I was talking. Yeah, it was. I was talking about how literally once I stopped being codependent, he he collapsed. He had a particularly bad collapse. I mentioned in my videos. I'll just briefly say he was in a mental hospital. He's been homeless. He does nothing to do with his own children. This is a man who used to be, his image was that he was a family man. He is nothing now. Like he literally he's no existence, no quality of life. And it was all because he was feeding off of me. Once I stopped, he collapsed over a 3-year period of time. He doesn't even resemble himself anymore. He looks like the same person. I was talking to my daughter about this the other day, and she was telling me, she's like, I can't believe it. He literally, she's like, Mom, he's not the same person. It's a different person. I think that it's the demon that we're seeing. There's no cover. There's no veil for him. He's exposed because he doesn't have anybody to feed off of. So if you think of it in that way, their strength only comes from us. But we can be strong on our own. We don't, when people are codependent, you're relying on other people for your sense of self, but you're not happy that way. Once you get rid of that and you look at yourself and know your own value, everything changes. And I know it takes time, but my God, the difference in my life when I was with my ex and now, it's almost like when my daughter was saying that my ex is a different person now, so am I. But I'm a better version. I'm happy. I can breathe. That's what, oh my gosh, Joe, is that the same for you?
Yeah, they're the same people. It's just you see them without they're like the turtles without their shell. And you're right. Like without the slaves, there was no Egypt. There were no pyramids, and Egypt eventually declined. And then it came into Roman Empire, and then that happened too. So yeah, without the slave, the pharaoh, the masters have nothing to work with. And when their slave, gets free, you're left to see who they really are. They're very weak, fragile individuals. Like we're the ones that build them up. They suck the energy out of us, and we build their pyramids and their fake, status. And when the time is right, we go. God willing, they crumble. They're nothing.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen it. I know you've seen it. Tell us, have you guys seen that? Have you witnessed or seen a narcissist collapse when you've gained your strength, or you know somebody who has? I'd be really interested to hear about that. So, Joe, should we end today and talk about next week?
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody's interested, Sharon and I have both been blessed. I don't know if you call it that, but to witness the karma of the narcissist. I think the video was Karma and the Narcissist. If I'm correct, Sharon, you guys can scroll back in the library, be able to find that. It's really interesting. This is eyewitness account of that. And what do you think for a topic next week, there, young lady?
I know we always go back and forth. We actually don't talk about this ahead of time, so I'm just going off it. Um, I don't know. Do you have a topic, or should we throw it out there for people watching to have an idea?
Yeah, how about people watching? Because I mean, that's what we're doing this for, and you guys are a part of this conversation. So make sure if you have anything to add, like or dislike or whatever, just let us know because you're a part of this. We get on the phone and we talk, but eventually in a couple of months we're going to be doing live, which will be awesome. Then we can all have a phone conversation.
Yes,
Um,
I'm going to
which
give
will be
them a
great.
little sneak peek. Yes, so Joe and I are moving in together in December, and we're planning in January to do some lives and do a lot of fun stuff with the channel. So definitely stay tuned for that. Joe, did you want to say anything else?
No, just thanks for letting me come on board and share with you and give back a little bit to people. If it helps, hopefully, even one person. If not, it helped myself. It's part of my recovery, sharing, but hopefully it reached out to somebody. And with that, just God willing, I'll see you next Monday.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. I hope everybody has a wonderful week. I will see you on Wednesday without Joe, and Joe will be back next Monday, and we'll have a new video for you. So if you have any ideas, tell us because we don't know. So help us out. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.